My musical like output didn't start with guitar, but my parents have a Wurlitzer grand, not a grand, it's a upright piano that like they got for like $100 at a garage sale like back in the day. And so growing up, like 2 or 3, when I could like climb up onto the bench, I just like lift the piano hood and just go to town. Just I remember like one of the earliest exercises that I would do was playing and holding a note with my left hand on the lower notes, and then with the right hand playing like a little melody, and then changing the note on the left, and then continuing the melody. And it just came naturally. And like when I think back to it, I'm like, wow, that's pretty phenomenal that, this 3-year-old was like, oh, let me try this, which is actually playing piano, like just and understanding harmony and like, but it was when I started playing guitar, and the guitar was spurred by multiple things, like mainly a couple friends when I was 15 that were playing guitar and were really into rock music, and I looked up to them and I thought they were really cool and I wanted to be cool. So that was kind of like my strange, like fake way of getting into music, but then realizing, oh shit, no, I fucking love this. This is my thing. Like this is what I need. And it started off with like learning Red Hot Chili Peppers songs and attempting to play Mars Volta because I absolutely loved them, and System of a Down, and just Mute Math, just a couple names I'm dropping. But then I always wanted to be a video game designer, and I went looking for colleges, and at the time what I wanted to do was be like the head of the like game, like I wanted to be the game designer, the one with the idea. Yeah. Like that's what I did as a kid. I had a bunch of like the composition notebooks filled with game ideas. You remember at summer camp, I'd be like, yo, let's make a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game, and we draw the characters, I draw the levels out. Like I just love like mapping the whole thing out. Yeah. And when I went to a couple schools and they're like, oh yeah, the game design program we have is like 3D animation or 3D modeling. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want. Yeah. And there was nothing for this other aspect. So
like game architecture, essentially.
And at that same time, I was already starting to play guitar, and something that I loved was the accessibility and the quickness of like getting that creative flow, writing a song, and just letting it kind of like write itself and just come right out. And boom, there's a song. I don't have to wait 4 or 5 years like putting a game together and getting designers and this and that. And I'm like, I feel like my ADHD would not have allowed for that. Like that's a long-term commitment, and I think that like the bite-sized quality of songs really worked. And I just started writing and started using GarageBand on my dad's like old ass iMac, and then they gifted me like Ableton one year, and then the next year they gifted me Logic, and just from then like I just continued to write, and I was always in a band, and I was always writing all the songs, sometimes all the parts, and like, oh man, it just kind of all unfolded from there. I know we didn't really get into the craft. I gave you like
but that's the whole, that's exactly what it's, kind of like understanding where it started, where it stemmed from, and some of the experiences that you've kind of had to build what you now use as part of your, your output, essentially.
I can say about craft, or at least where music comes from for me, it's always been more about feeling. Like, how do I feel? What is this song that I want to bring out? And most of the time I'm like sitting on the guitar, not on it, sitting with the guitar and I'm just playing, and something goes, oh, I like this little thing I just played. That's catchy. Like, and I feel like a little pull, like magnetism. I start playing it more, develop it more, and I'll start singing gibberish over it. Like the words don't always come like right away. Sometimes within the gibberish, and I record a voice memo, there'll be like one sentence, and I'm like, that random thing that came through me actually sounds really good, and all the lyrics flow from that one sentence. Yeah. And like the melody is there in the gibberish, and like the song just starts to like flesh itself out. It's coming out of nothing and into the fog, and then like the fog clears and there's this like finished product. Yeah. And it's just about like getting out of the way for that to happen. And one thing, especially on like a more in like a spiritual perspective of what I do, I've held this perspective for a while, that the music or anything that I create is not mine. I didn't create it. I'm just a channel, in the same way that an instrument, like if you're holding let's say a djembe, you have a drum, do you play the drum and then someone says, wow, that drum played some awesome music? No, you're like, oh, the person playing the drum played awesome music. Well, in my beliefs, there's something that's flowing through me, and I am the instrument that's playing this music.
Yeah.
And when I can tap into that, then my ego gets out of the way and stops like judging what I'm doing in the moment, like, oh, you made a mistake. And then like, and I've had so many issues like that, like, oh, I'm on stage, there's so many people watching, and like, oh, this girl's cute, she's looking at me, and like, I want to make a good impression, and oh, my entire family's here, and I just made a mistake, and it just like ruins everything. But like, when you're really in the moment and you're like, oh no, like I'm doing this is just coming through me, like I don't have to worry, like that's when it just happens.